Welcome to the 2717 podcast. I'm Javier, an authentic wedding filmmaker.
And I'm Ashley, a passionate wedding photographer.
We're here to bring Proverbs 27:17 to the wedding industry. As iron sharpens iron,
so one person sharpens another. In this fun series, we're all about sharing experiences and building a community.
Expect heartfelt stories, creative inspiration, and some amazing behind-the-scene moments.
Plus, insights from some truly inspiring guests.
Tune in to connect with us, spark your creativity,
and be a part of a supportive community.
You're listening to the 2717 podcast.
Planning your wedding isn't just about choosing a venue, it's about finding the perfect backdrop for one of the most meaningful moments of your life. That's where Juliana Estate comes in. Nestled in the heart of Lakeland, this elegant estate gives you that classic scenic charm, like a movie set, but it's all yours. Think lush greenery, romantic gardens, and plenty of room for unforgettable moments with the people you love the most. It's a place where every detail feels personal because it's not just a venue. It's where your story begins. See how Juliana Estate can make your wedding day truly yours at julianaestate.com. Thanks for sponsoring today's podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Javi.
And I'm Ashley, and thank you for listening to the 2717 podcast. Today, we have an amazing guest, Danielle, and she is the owner of Danielle Adalyn Photography and one of my dearest friends. Danielle, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, of course. We're so happy to talk to you all things wedding photography and wedding-related things. But let's just jump into how you got started with photography.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I feel like everybody has like a similar story, but I basically, like, whenever I was like younger, I always just was like just intertwined with like anything cameras, anything video. I like did YouTube actually, like we don't talk about that though. But that was like, I just had so much fun like putting stuff together, just being creative. I always wanted like an aesthetic feed and like just it just like happened whenever I was younger. And my dad, he had a camcorder like and would just take videos of us growing up. And I think like when a family member does that, especially someone you look up to, you kind of emulate that and you're like, oh, I want to also take videos too. So I kind of did that, and then it just went from there. I got my first camera when I was 16. My parents gave me a Canon Rebel, the cute little kit camera with the lens.
Yeah, I know, the classic starter camera. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited to have it, and I just used it all the time. And then when in 2018, when I was a junior in high school, I literally just started taking photos of my friends. And I would say I started with a lot of seniors. I was a senior at the time taking senior pictures for my friends, and it basically just went from there. I established my website in 2020. It was like December 2020, like when COVID was still around. And I was just like bored. So I made a website, and I'm like, I guess we're doing this. And I guess like deep down I knew I wanted to be a photographer, but I was like scared. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be successful, you know? But here we are. So, yeah.
Here we are. And then me and you met at a retreat out in Utah.
Oh my God, yes.
Best trip of my life. We had literally the best time, and we didn't meet or even talk. I mean, you had talked to Sarah, one of our other friends, about joining in with our rental car. And then we met like in the airport right at baggage claim. And like, I just remember like you were this like ray of sunshine. Like you just came over and were like giving hugs and just like so excited. And we our whole group that was in that car, all four of us, like just instantly clicked and instantly bonded. And we just had the best like 3 days.
Yeah, it was the best time. I think also, I think that was my first time ever like making a jump like that and joining like a content day. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Utah. Like I've always wanted to go. And I had no clue like who any of these people were, didn't know. I was like so nervous. And I think Sarah did reach out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so nice. And she was like, oh, Ashley and Evie are going to be joining us. And I'm like, okay. I think that's when I first met you, I was like, where are you guys from? And you're like, Florida. I'm like, I'm from Florida.
Yeah,
I don't know where you are.
That's so funny. And Florida's so huge too.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm like, you're just right on the opposite coast. And like, you're right, we did all click. And I think that's so important, is to have like a good community. And like, I think that was just such a life-changing experience for me. It made me want to travel more. It was just like such a great opportunity, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. We still talk about that all the time. Our little group, we talk about how it like totally like transformed our business and like really kickstarted that like community aspect in all of our businesses and the love for travel and everything. And that was my first retreat too, of like jumping to another state with like a bunch of people that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky because I had known Sarah beforehand, and she had reached out to me and was like, do you want to go do this? And I was like, yeah, let's do this thing. So like I did know someone, but like all of us just like instantly bonded. And even not just our like the four of us in our car, but like everyone that stayed at the house too was all just like the nicest people. And like we still keep in contact through social media and stuff like that. So it was just so much fun.
Yeah. And that was like a year ago. Like it's crazy to think it was like, and from that point on and like everything we've been doing, like we've really all, and just following everyone's journey on social media, which is so great to like, you know, keep connected with people who don't even like live near you. I think it was just so great. And you're right, like it was such a big group of girls and we all bonded. Like I miss it so much. I still talk about it.
Yeah, every chance we get, we're like,
every
Utah,
chance we
who
get.
are we? Utah girlies. But I wanted to ask you, your style is so beautiful. Like your style of editing and posing are just so like storytelling, cinematic. How do you get that? How do you achieve that through posing?
Yeah, such a good question. I don't know. I think what really transformed to go towards that aspect of like cinematic photography was honestly like I felt like in a weird spot with my photography. Like I felt like I was just going through the motions of like what you should do as a photographer, doing all these shoots. Like, and so I think I was just editing a session. I put on this random show. I was just like, you know, because I'm the kind of person to have like a show playing. And normally it's reality TV, but I was like, let's like veer off into something good. So it was a
Kardashians,
show.
you need to wait.
It was a show called One Day, and it was actually like, I think Anne Hathaway was, they did a remake of it, I think in the UK. I might be wrong, but I just gotta check that. Fact check me. But it was such a good show. Like I was literally just watching it and I don't know what it was. Like everything about the show was just so different and like unique. Like the way they would capture like wide shots. Like I felt like at the time before I had watched the show, I captured mostly portrait, but like the way they captured video, like even video, like and your stuff is amazing too. Like I just wish I could do all this like videography stuff, but like just the way like people like film and direct like movies and shows is just so captivating. And so that show really transformed like how I viewed my photography. So I like would like do research on like different types of perspective shots that I could get, you know, constantly moving around and getting shots. Like, so I just see when I go to a shoot, I kind of like see myself as like a director and I'm like, okay, so what can I do to get this shot and make sure I'm like also capturing emotion and like getting different kinds of like shots, like in aspects of like just them like sitting together and, you know, watching the sunset. Like, can I capture like a nice perspective shot? And, you know, I think a big thing for me is that like with movies that, I just capture it very landscape too. And I feel like with my editing too, I've always underexposed in camera. I feel like in camera settings are very important. So I would always like underexpose. And then I use the color grid a lot, like in camera to kind of just like match, like, because every shoot is different. Every environment, every like lighting situation is different. So like and I say this all the time, I'm like, not one story is the same, so why should your shoots be? So like I basically like hone in on like, okay, who is my couple? Where are we shooting? And how can I make this unique to them? And not like, because like a lot of people look at my work and they're like, I want it captured like this. But I was like, well, that's their shoot, that's their story. I can try my best, but like, you know, your shoot is going to be very unique. It's like I'm going to be sharing your story, so it might look different than what you see on my page, kind of thing. So I just like go in with that perspective while shooting. And Yeah.
Have you ever tried videography? Because it sounds like your mindset
I
is much
know.
more, to be honest, like as a cinematographer or videographer perspective, right? Like the way I kind of separate the two is like with cinema or cinematographers is they're usually always trying to convey a story. I feel like more videographers just documenting, capturing in a sense.
Mhm.
And so like when I even look at your photos from my perspective, I see it as like, wow, like they look like video stills because it just feels like, okay, there was more to that motion or to that moment.
Mhm.
And it feels like it's telling a story. And I like your the way you color your photos too as well. It just feels much more like a video still than it is like photography still photos,
Mhm.
especially if you're for weddings or for couples. I like the perspective that the way you capture things, but your mindset and approach already much sounds like a
I know.
videographer, cinematographer compared to a photographer's mindset, right? Because
Mhm.
you're trying to identify the uniqueness of who they are and how do you tell that story to who they are. Like my films, you'll never see one film look like the other,
Exactly, yeah.
even if it's in the same setting, because I'm
Mhm.
just trying to find what makes them unique and not just try to replicate what's around and use, and so it's like I feel like you're able to identify what makes them unique, and then based on the scenery you're at, find each scene to help tell and convey that
Mhm.
story about them. But I really love your photos because they really look like a video still. They look
Thank
much
you.
more, the
Yeah.
cinematic really means is just, emotion of pictures. That's really
Mhm.
much is it. And so if you finish the term, if I'm watching and I'm looking at your still photos, I'm just like, man, that feels like a video still, and there was more to that, more
Mhm.
layers to that moment there when I look at it.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I would love to get in videography one day. I mean, I did like every time like you see my YouTube, it's just montages of like all my trips and stuff. And I don't know, I think photography was just what I leaned more towards because I loved having that control of like, editing, like the aftermath and like kind of just completely not like completely transforming the photo, but kind of like making it feel like, moody or just like how it felt in the moment kind of thing. So I think yeah, movies and TV shows definitely helped a lot in like how I just kind of one like set up my couples like during a shoot too. I focus a lot on like prompts, so I don't like obviously I'm gonna like set them up and like but I think what's important is like I'll like which is really funny. I'll be like changing my settings and I'm like, okay, give me 1 second. But whatever they're doing, then I'm actually like secretly taking photos of them because those in between moments, like I feel like I get more out of that than actually just like, okay, give her a kiss on the cheek kind of thing. So I enjoyed shooting couples like a lot. I think weddings are great for that because you're really just like, other than, setting your couple up, like, for, bride and groom photos, you're also capturing, you're like kind of like being observant, being like a fly on the wall and capturing their whole day as it like unravels. And I think that's like also like makes it easy for us because, we're just like capturing that like documentary style almost. But yeah.
Now I love that you say that because I'm very much the same where it's like I say cut, pretty much
Cut.
like cut, but I'm still recording because they'll give me those genuine reactions that I'm looking
Oh
for,
yeah. Hmm.
and like that's the best part. And sometimes I'll cue the photographer. I'm like, hey, I'm saying cut, but I'm still recording, so don't jump
Mm,
in just yet. Just give it some
yeah.
time, and then I'll look at them like come in. But that's when you get those real moments, especially
Hmm.
like even right after as they're walking, they say I do, and they're going down through the aisle, the couple together, and they'll just have that genuine moment, and their family and friends will join them at the end. And then you get those real conversations,
Hmm.
those real tears, those real elements that makes that day special to them with their
Hmm.
family and friends, because ultimately the wedding day is just for them, to get married. They're making that covenant in front of all their
Yeah.
family and friends that they love, and then they'll get to celebrate with later. And so capturing those real moments is huge, and I love that intentionality that you go with of like, hey, like you set up the scene in a way, but you let them have that real dialogue that you're
Hmm.
just now behind capturing and documenting it all.
Yeah. And I tell that to my couples during like couple sessions all the time. I'm always like, please don't be afraid to like act how you normally would. Like, and that's where I feel like me being bubbly like helps them, because I'm always like, all right, girly pop, this is your time. Like, let's go. We're going to do this together. And, you know, so they do kind of have that more like, okay, then she's just kind of a friend. And I always say like the first 10 minutes are going to be a little awkward, but once we get past that, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I always say like, don't forget to like just do what you naturally would. Like if it feels like, if you just like think she looks so beautiful and you just want to like give her a little kiss on the cheek, like that's so beautiful. And if she gets hair in her face from the wind, like if you just want to like tuck it like behind, like don't feel like you need to hold a pose or a prompt. Like make it yours and make it your own. I always say that to them.
Yeah.
You said something that caught my attention, that you said that you like to shoot more horizontally than like vertically in a portrait way.
Oh
and
my gosh,
so
what is that like?
So the cool
Teach
thing
me your
is,
ways.
like, just to share a little bit of background on myself, like I did photos. I started out with photo first, and I didn't stop until maybe like 2 years ago offering for my business, but I still shoot it for, you know, second shooting with other photographers because I really enjoy it. But with videos, like everything's horizontal, and so like you're limited to just this aspect ratio pretty much for the most part,
Right.
and it like makes you think differently when you're like limited to one thing. Like if you're using a prime versus a zoom, like if you're gonna zoom in, you got to walk with a prime compared to a zoom lens, right?
Zoom all the way.
And but those prime lenses make you creative though, because they'll make you find
yes.
different perspective and look at things differently. And so when you're limited to just one aspect ratio, how has that, like for you, impacted your photography style, and that has made you unique because of the way that, you know, you see the world and document things?
Yeah. I don't know why. I just made the sudden shift to shoot horizontally. Maybe it's because my wrist was hurting like this. So I'm like, Danielle, we're just gonna shoot like this. No, that's like kind of part of the reason actually. But I don't know. I think whenever I would watch the movies, right, like they're all shot like, what is it, 16:9 or something?
Yeah.
And I would crop that way sometimes too with like creative shoots. But most of the time I'm shooting horizontally, and I think for me, like I'm in that like mindset of like, okay, like I'm taking photos of their story, their movie, like they're the actors, you know, and I'm just here like just capturing their love, like just pure love right here. And I think for me, I just see my environment, like the setting of wherever I'm shooting, as a third subject. Like obviously it's them, right? And when you shoot portrait, you know, most of the time you're just like, that's who you see is them. But for me, and I don't know what it is, like I don't like to be so up close to my like clients. Obviously sometimes I will, and that's why it's nice with the zoom. But most of the time, like I find myself like way back and like just capturing like them, like so tiny and so little, and then it's just like the setting, you know. And I think that's so important. I think Devin, my fiance, he loves those kinds of shots. So I think like I also had that aspect of like, you know, he doesn't do photography. So I'm like, what if other people like are liking these wide shots? They love like to see like the beauty of where their photos are getting taken too. So like even like in weddings and like my couple sessions and my seniors, like I just apply that. And I don't know, I love shooting horizontally. It's great.
No, I love that. You know what's speaking now into, I really want to know about your gear. So what do you shoot with? What lens is your favorite
Give
lens?
us the inside scoop.
Oh my God. I shoot on an R5 actually, which is solely a camera that's used for video with the megapixels that has. I shoot on an R5. I have an R, but it's a backup. I never use it. I literally just use my R5 and then my 2470. It's like, that's what I use. And then I'll use a Godox flash, and I have an 85 too, but I rarely use that. I think it's because it's a hefty lens. I'm like, I can't carry that. I'm good.
Oh man, so you haven't tried the 28 to 70 then F2.
Yeah, I know it. I would love that. I've stopped on that. It's really nice. But yeah, I used to shoot on prime. I used to shoot on like a 35, but I love the versatility of a 2470. So that's awesome. That's my main camera gear.
I love my 24 to 70. It just gives you all of the perfect angles all in one. Like you really don't have to move. And I'm just moving a little bits to get a bunch of different shots like within 5 seconds of each other, which is so helpful because especially like when they're in a weird position, because modeling is hard. I give it to y'all.
Yes.
I always say that. But when they're holding something, I can get so many different like perspectives and angles all within like just a little time frame because of that. So I always love my 24-70.
I love that lens. It's the best.
Man, you guys have it really good. Such a minimal kit, 2 lenses,
Yeah.
2 camera bodies.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you got like 5 I don't know how many cameras and
Yeah, there's a
lights.
full production in here.
Yeah, we got
I'm just
good.
bringing my little bag.
We got 4 cameras up in here capturing all angles, all different lenses. That's something where it's like, I wish for me, like I could adapt that, like that mentality of just using less. But unfortunately, no. Like as creativity expands, like for even for myself now, I'm using like anamorphic lenses for my wedding films. And so with that comes a whole different set of challenges that you just have to now adopt in, you know, shooting the wedding, and then also the workflow of editing the wedding, and it gives a distinctive look. So like when you're mentioning that you like wide field of view, you know, anamorphic lenses is one there that most movies you would watch or see, they're using anamorphic lenses. So they're de-squeezing the image. It has a certain
Right.
look, characteristics. So usually softer image. They're not meant to look sharp. They usually have pin cushion distortion. So it looks almost like a barrel. So like whatever's in the front kind of pops out more compared to the sides. And colors rendition is really, really nice on those lenses. And I've been like adapting it to my stuff now because it's giving me a certain look and feel. And then when I'm editing, it kind of brings out other creativity. It's like, wow, like I feel like I'm watching a movie now. And then you can play around with a whole bunch of aspect ratios, like 2:4:1 or 2:7:6:1, compared to like a 16:9 image or whatnot. But what really like attracted you to just to want to shoot horizontally and not focus on like a portrait wise? Like, was it that, you know, that interaction of watching that really changed everything for you? Or was it like, I've always liked to capture things more like what's around and paint the full picture rather than just the subject itself?
I definitely transition a lot into like horizontal and portrait. When I shoot my seniors, obviously I'm in that aspect of like, okay, this is a little more like I'm not shooting them like you would see like in a movie. But obviously with my seniors, I do shoot more portrait, and I guess like that transition, which makes it easier with the gear I have, you know,
Yeah.
like I can always like get all different kinds of shots and just have a like a really good gallery with lots of variety. So, I think just with horizontal, I'm just more, I've adapted to that more when it comes to like, okay, can I capture them also like and hone in on a portrait like photo, but also get them in like, you know, like if we're at a beach and like I'm like, oh my gosh, like the beach is like part of your setting, like I'm gonna capture you guys there. So it's kind of like makes it more cinematic almost, yeah.
Can you walk us through like your creative process? Like once you get an inquiry, how that looks like going into a shoot, and how you like talk to your clients and prep them for this type of session.
So normally, because obviously I want to like know who I'm working with. So a big part of that is, and I feel like this year I've wanted to like really focus on the client experience, and like what more can I offer to them. So one of the things that I've recently done, for my couples and like my weddings, is I give them like a questionnaire, and I guess it just depends like what kind of questions you want to ask them, but it kind of just helps me know who they are as people. Like I'll do a full like Instagram stock search, and I'm like, who's my client that I'm working with? But like I don't know, I feel like every person you work with is different, and I feel like as someone who is like very talkative, like I'm always yapping too. Like I'm just like I just want to learn more about them, and I think that's why whenever I start sessions, I'm like, okay, let's leave 30 minutes. Let's meet way earlier than we should so I can talk to you. But yeah, I usually start off with like a questionnaire, and then I allow them time to like literally just fill that out when they want. It's just questions like, you know, how did you guys meet? What are your favorite things to do? Like if I want to implement like a fun activity with them, I do that. So they're comfortable, you know, and it's I think it's important to know who your couple is. Like you don't want to go into anything and just be like, I don't know who I'm working with. And that can also come in during while like you're at the shoot too. So I think giving them a questionnaire, and then after that, really just like keeping in contact with them and making them feel like, oh, she's got me, like, I know I can lean on her for anything, any questions I have to make me more comfortable for this shoot.
It's like, man, I wish I could just go out to the mountains or go elsewhere to shoot because it's beautiful. And in a way, it is easier, but you have so much competition in like in a different area, right? Like, sure, if everybody has the mountains, everyone can get a great image and a light, around the lighting and time. But how can you distinct yourself based on the scenery that you're at to really shine through everything and really show off, the area that we're at?
I think like just angles are really important too. Obviously when you're in some place other than Florida, like having that easy scenery, like I was in Arizona and I'm like, oh, easy, I've got red rocks everywhere. Same with Utah, like we've got the salt flats and whatnot. So environment plays like obviously like a huge part in that. But I think for me, like what I've really like focused more on is like, okay, maybe I'm shooting at the beach a lot. Like I'm here, how can I make this any more different? Sometimes I'll include like an activity for them so I can like maybe focus on that more than just like the setting. And then also just giving them prompts too, like to kind of just like add variety in their gallery. Just kind of thinking of different ways to like make it more fun for them, and just kind of also incorporating, and even I will shoot horizontal, but do like an up close shot. Like I'm not always like, okay, we've got like lots of sky and just like flat land, So yeah, I would say, environment plays a big part in that. So.
Yeah, and I say that all the time too. I'm like, I'm so sick of the beach. So sick of doing the beach shots. And I feel yeah, I feel like the beach is beautiful. I'm not a huge like beachy girl, so that's just a me thing, but I love that you said like you give them activities to do, or like just fun things that make it them, because there is ways that you can use your creative eye to make a difference in the scenery, you know what I mean? Because like we've talked about this, me and Dee, and like in Utah, I was like, I feel like everything was great. We could go anywhere and I could get a good shot. Like the lighting was beautiful. And here in Florida, we have the harshest light in the entire world, it feels like. And it's really dependent on where you are and what time and all of that stuff. So like bringing in that creative eye of like, hey, I'm a professional and like my eye is unique to me and I'm going to capture your love story in this different way, even though I've been to this same beach 5 million times, is really important. And then also playing into them. I love how you like give them things to do. Like you could give them activities, or like if they have a specific beach that's really important to them and finding out why, and or they have this favorite beach shack restaurant that they've been coming to for however long, and like that's really important to them, and playing that aspect into things can just kind of switch up your perspective and help you get a little bit more creative. The more you know your couple is, the more creative you can get. So
yeah, I love that. That's so good.
So for anyone that's interested in like shooting the way that you shoot, what would be your approach? Like what's the like time of day that you're usually looking at in terms of setting the scene? Like what other factors play into a role when you're like capturing, especially the way that you shoot? Because you kind of hinted at that you like to underexpose. When you're shooting, you like to use zoom lenses, but are there specific times of days or things that you look at that really help capture these images that look very cinematic and that help tell a story?
Yeah, I've been trying to weigh in on being more comfortable with lighting everywhere, like just like sunrise to sunset kind of thing. I do love shooting after dark too. I think that's really fun. It depends though, like you need to have like some source of light, but normally like I would say to achieve like a look that I kind of have like way darker. Obviously sunset is like the way to go for everyone. So like right now, the sun sets at like 5:30. I'll usually meet my client at like 4:30. And then kind of just go into like, okay, golden hour is like my peak. I I know a lot of people are like blue hour, but I feel like with my kind of editing, it's more warmer with a little side of like dark, like, moody vibes. And people who like edit like maybe a little more blue, like blue hours, like obviously they thrive more in. So it really just depends on like what you're into, because everyone shoots different. Like everyone, it's cool to see like on Instagram, like, oh my God, I would definitely edit this totally different. But yeah, I would say around like golden hour is good. I love to play around with shadows a lot. Like I was afraid of them before, but I think that's really like kind of captured the essence of like what my style is too. So honestly, lighting obviously plays a big part in that. When it comes to like a sunrise shoot, that's a lot trickier for me, to be honest, because like the light's constantly changing. Like if you guys have done like a sunrise shoot, that's like just how it is. So I'm just like, oh, I have to like change my settings, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I think just like being very flexible with shooting in all different types, like parts of the day, is really important as a photographer. I think you learn that as you go. Because like when I first started, I would only do shoots like 30 minutes before sunset, or like how it is, but if I'm gonna do a sunrise shoot, like I know that I'm able to do it because we're professionals at this point. Like we have to work with all different types of lighting and different like setting situations. So I think and also just having that mindset of like, my shoot's not going to look the same as I did 2 days ago. Like I don't have to keep that consistency, even though on everyone's feed, you gotta, you want to, I think that's just like a photographer thing. We want to keep things consistent because that's what your clients first see. Like if you look up, Danielle on Instagram, you look them up and that's the first thing they see. Because we love consistency. So
Do you have like a certain white balance that you're set to, or your like automatic white balance? Like what's the secret sauce per se?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know what Kelvin was until Utah, to be honest. I did not know what it was. I did not know what it was. I don't know who mentioned it. I just like knew it like ended up there. Ever since I started shooting in Kelvin last year, like I loved shooting in Kelvin.
Yeah.
But normally like I'll do white balance in like indoor settings. It just depends. Like I'll like, if I know it's like easier enough to do white balance. But normally when I'm outside, I'm always shooting in Kelvin. Yeah.
Like, is there a certain temperature range that you're always in?
Yeah. Normally around like 5,000 to like 7,000.
Yeah.
When it gets blue hour, I'm like bumping that up. Like, cause I want to try to keep it like as warm, but also balanced too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be comfortable in every single lighting situation, especially being a wedding photographer, because you're taking photos throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
So, whether they do a first look or not, and with the time change and when ceremony is and everything, like you're in so many different lighting scenarios. And if you're not comfortable in them, you're going to panic really quickly. Or
especially on their wedding day. That's a big deal.
Especially on a wedding day where everything is so fast paced. And like first looks can happen beforehand, and then you're doing all of your photos, your couples photos, your bridal party photos in midday light. So you have to be semi comfortable with that. Same thing with ceremony. So just having that comfortability with every single lighting situation is so important as a photographer, I think.
One thing I really have to commend you on when I'm looking at your feed is that the tonality and sense of like the luminance and brightness of your images is all like consistent throughout, no matter even if it's like super bright outside or super dark. Like it just has a very even keel look to it on your feed that's like, oh wow, like that's really hard to achieve, honestly.
It is.
Especially in different
She said,
settings.
I practice really hard.
But like when I'm looking at your feed, like I can see, I'm like, okay, it's like my eyes just start working. I'm like, okay, what's the things I'm looking at? And everything's very consistent all the way through. Like you said, photographers like consistency. But you have it throughout the different settings of the day, the scenery. And whether it's here or in Europe, that's all your images is like, wow, like that's not hard. That's not easy to do. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to finally like develop your own consistent style?
It's way too long. Maybe, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how long it took me to like really plan out like, I don't know about you guys, but I
Hmm.
take forever to plan out like my feed. It's like
Mm.
I think consistency is just very important to me. It's just a thing that I do, like not even realizing. Like I'm just like, oh, why am I like trying so hard to make things fit? And in reality, like like I said, you see my galleries and they're all like very different.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my feed, like I try to make sure that, people, because I've had people come to me and they're like, can you like edit a little brighter? And I'm just like, I'm sure like you've seen my page and that's like not normally what I do. So normally I just like kind of find a base, which is like I use presets, but I tweak them very much, just so it kind of like fit like how I want to edit and how I want like these photos to look. Just like so with consistency, like it's not always going to be 100%. But yeah, I mean, you look at my page, there's different, I'm not always shooting at sunset. They're all different kind of lighting
Hmm.
situations. And I think I pray for cloudy weather like every day. I think that helps a lot. And maybe just like a really nice, like sunny day. But yeah, it's not easy to like uh keep consistency like for a feed. I mean, I'm sure you guys kind of
Yeah. How long
know.
would you
Yeah.
say like it took you to develop your presets or style wise when it comes to editing to have a formula that's almost consistent all the way throughout different times of days?
Um Gosh, I mean, it took me a while to kind of develop into like what you see now. Because I mean, you scroll down to my page and I don't edit like that anymore. So I think being a photographer, obviously, you're gonna go through different phases, like in editing, how you shoot. Like, obviously, last year I edited way different than I did now. I think just kind of just finding your niche is very important. And obviously, it's not gonna be like that. Like you're not. Maybe I won't stay with this consistent editing style, but it just fits with like my brand too. I think it's just like comfortable for me because when you're creating art, um, it's just so important to kind of find what fits for you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, it's ever evolving and never stops as you're
Yeah.
developing as an artist, as a photographer. Like you're in different seasons of when you're in different seasons of life, your art is also going to reflect that.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
found
that's
that
so good.
That's a big
I
thing.
found that
Yeah.
to be the case for myself, being doing this now for 8 years full time. When you look at my films, even from the beginning of this year to the direction they're heading in now, they're completely different.
Hmm.
The tools that I use are changing. The way I am seeing things in perspective is changing. The colors, the feel, like even the mindset and approach going into the film. And you learn things, you apply things, and anything in life that when you're exposed to things, now you're able to expand and apply those to your own craft.
Hmm.
And that's a huge thing where it's like, I think it's a good thing that we can have this platform to educate, because I feel there's different levels in terms of photographers or different types of photographers and videographers, where it's like there's some that provides a service and I'll give you that look every single time.
Hmm.
But then there's those like, hey, I'm going to provide this experience alongside with the way I see art and the way I create. And there's also different types of couples who appreciate that and appreciate the other. And I know for myself, like communicating that and marketing that out, it's like, okay, how do I market to the couples now that like appreciate the way I see things, the way I capture things? And it's almost like an art piece, right? Like the Mona Lisa became so famous after Leonardo da Vinci passed away, and it's an icon for its look, the way it is, the history behind it. But it's really because of the artist who painted it, and what that meant in that
Hmm.
period in time. And like as photographers or videographers, like we're in a way like that, right? Because our work is going to stand the test of time eventually, but it was authentic to who they were in the way that you saw the world, your perspective, and what you brought value to that couple or to anyone you interacted or captured. And I think that's the same thing with video wise, creating films. There's iconic films that you'll never forget, like the Titanic per se,
Oh
right?
my
It's
gosh,
like the
yeah.
scenes and the elements, what it made you feel, what it brought out of you. Everyone knows the director Michael Bay or Christopher Nolan for certain reasons, because the way we'll convey those stories that meant so much. And I think that it's not far-fetched for us to apply that in what we do as wedding professionals.
Yeah. And how cool that we are in an industry that does have such a generational impact on so many people. Maybe not to the scheme, like the grand scheme of the Titanic, but like the aspect of those are going to be in your family for generations, and photos are going to keep evolving, weddings are going to keep evolving, but it's something that you can look back at and relive every single time. And I think that's really, really magical that we're in an industry like that, and that we get to be a little part in someone's life.
Exactly. And when like when you think about it, they're going to look at those images or watch your film, and they're going to be remembered like, oh, that was Javi that did that for me, or that was Asher, Danielle. It's like they're gonna remember it, and then they might even like look up like what are they up to now? What are they doing? You know, in a way we get to play to that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to be remembered, you know, with the services that we provide to the couples, and know that we will be again in their family legacy.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Oh yeah, it's like we're kind of just like making our mark. I think it's so cool. I feel like we overlook it sometimes, that we get to do this and like we get to create, and people choose us to capture their special day. Like that's such an honor, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like I ran into a couple that I did their wedding a long time ago, and it was just so like nice to like see them, and then like they're just like, we just love your photos. Like people will look at your photos like years and years, and you know, it's just great that we get this opportunity, and this is our job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I tell Ashley all the time with, you know, what we're doing here with 2717 podcasts and what we do independently in our own businesses is like, hey, like just have the mindset to make an impact, you know, one person at a time.
Yeah.
Having that, it's cooler, right? You get to focus on that one person and making sure that you can serve them, which is our couples, in this case is our audience, and adding value wherever we can. And I think that's the important part. It's like being super intentional and having that perspective of just one person at a time, because sometimes we can fall into that slippery slope of comparing ourselves to everyone else. What's everyone else doing?
More often than not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
And it's just setting the right tone for all of us creatives of like, hey, we all have a unique way of seeing things and capturing things, and our processes look differently. And it's learning to appreciate that. And sure, there are going to be more people than not that appreciate the way some people see things. You know, that's just the way life is. But at the end of the day, we all have a unique perspective and a unique gifting that we can use to capture people's stories.
Preach.
Preach the house. That 8 down.
Let's go.
Let's go.
D, you just got engaged also. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yay. I feel like we need that background sound that's like, woo.
Just like, woo.
Yeah, the little like parade, fireworks, everything. So tell us about your proposal story and all that fun stuff.
I went to Italy end of May. Not me having to still think about that. I forget. But yeah, I had just gotten back from Switzerland, and we had a shoot with a photographer, and she was in the area. She's in Oregon area, PNW. So, and I love her work. So I ended up was just talking to her. I was like, oh, we're gonna want to do a couple shoot like in Italy, because it's Italy, you're gonna want to shoot. So and with Devin and I being long distance, like I love to have like photos of us, because like I don't get to see him every day. So when we planned the shoot, like we planned that shoot, it was the 22nd of June, and then we planned another one like a week or two before. So we had 2 shoots. He's not very good at like composing himself, so I kind of like had an idea almost, but I was really excited for the shoot, because like everything, like just the setting wise, like I was just like all for it. Like I think it was I get it confused with another garden, but we shot where we had the proposal done. It was at a garden in Florence, so it was like right there, and like we also got to like walk around Florence. Like it's just beautiful out there. So, yeah, basically, you know, we started off with the shoot, and it actually happened really quick. I mean, I didn't expect it to happen that quick, but she was basically something that I noticed that she did. She was like, I'm gonna get some BTS right here. So she has like a whole like video of it happening. So she set her phone up, and then she was like, I want you guys to like walk over here, and it was like a beautiful like little arched kind of like rundown, but it was gorgeous, like greenery, like it was my ideal. Like I would do a shoot there, which I ended up doing like weeks later at that garden. And yeah, he basically just went down on a knee, and I honestly blanked out. I don't know about you. I was like, I don't even know what he said, to be honest. And then I'm just like kind of like I'm trying not to cry. I did cry a little bit after because she wanted us to have that moment. Like he had just proposed, blah blah, and like he's like hugging me. I'm like, what's going on? And then we go, which is what's very important to me, because he ended up saying more things to me because he felt relieved after. He was like obviously leading up to it, but she was like, can you guys just go over there? I'm gonna get some wide shots, and you guys just do your thing, whatever. So I was like kind of, because when someone else is there, you're like kind of like conscious. So you're like, oh, there's someone here. Mm-hmm. But it was just us, really. So we went down the stairs, and like she captured the whole like it was kind of like elevated. We were up, so we got to see the whole city of Florence with the Duomo. It was just beautiful. And then he started saying stuff. Couldn't tell you what he said, but and then I just like was like tearing up because it was just so sweet. I knew it was sweet. No, he was just like very like, he was just like, I can't wait to, spend the rest of my life with you, all these things. And
stop. We love Devin in the house.
We love him. Yeah, it was just really great. And then we ended up shooting for, oh my gosh, we shot for like 2 or 3 hours. We ended up getting pizza with her. Like, it was just such a great shoot. And like, having her as a photographer, like obviously it's like I want to implement that, because like having that like one-on-one with your photographer is so important. Like you don't want it to be like one and done kind of thing. We genuinely got to spend like lots of great time with her before she left. But yeah, it was just a beautiful proposal, and I remember going home and then calling all my family, and it was just like a very special day.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
How has wedding planning been being in the wedding industry?
Yeah, that honestly, like I don't know what I was expecting to be honest. I thought it was going to be pretty easygoing, but it's not at all. Like I think it's so different. Like you're the photographer of the wedding. Like all you got to do is like help them with the timeline, obviously you have these questions for them prior, and like you're asking for a shot list and like all of these things. So it's like a little different, because obviously there is some sort of pressure like for you, but now like being on the other side of it is very different. It's like I've thought of things that I didn't even know that I needed to do for the wedding. And I think once we got engaged, I was still in Italy, so I didn't really get to wedding planning right away. I don't know if you did right away, but I was just like chilling. I was like, yay, I'm engaged. I get home to Florida and I'm like, oh my God, like this is actually a little stressful, way more stressful than I thought it would be. So yeah, it's been pretty good so far. Like I have most of our vendors kind of picked out, and we ended up going with a backyard wedding at my parents' house next year. So that's really good. It's good to have that base, like where are we even going to have it?
Yeah.
That was a big thing before, because we were weighing Italy and Florida, and ended up, we're just going to do something very intimate, just me and him in Florida. And then, Italy, sorry. And then we're just going to do everything with family, because it's just easier, like having all our family there. So yeah, it's been pretty hectic, but we're getting through it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And our wedding dates are actually a week apart.
Oh my God, they're a week apart.
They're so close together.
I didn't even ask you. I don't even know. Yeah, no, I was just like, oh, it's the 15th. And you're like,
Yeah, mine's the 21st.
You're like, mine's the week after yours. I'm
so
like,
close. Which was funny. I was like, Sarah, our friend from Utah, was like, you guys timed that perfectly. We get one trip down.
oh my gosh,
2 weddings
yes.
done.
I didn't even think of that. That's so true. I love that.
But yeah, I would feel the same. I feel the same way for sure. Like being on the photographer side of things, you know, you just kind of have to worry about yourself and your business and the couple. You know, like what are my processes for this? I want to get to know the couple, engagement session, and then production of the wedding day, you know, how it goes and stuff. So then being on the other side of it, same thing. I had a couple like months of chill because we did decide to like push out our wedding further. So I had a couple months of chill, and now I'm kind of in the like, okay, you need to do this every month and this every month, and kind of more of the like nitty gritty, not so much design stuff, which I feel like when we do plan design things, it'll be a lot more fun. But like planning our guest list and getting everyone's addresses and all that stuff is just like very like nitty gritty and like more of like, I'll do it next week, but I really need to do it soon. So I feel you on that aspect of things.
It can be very stressful because you think like big picture, but then like when you're saying nitty gritty, like there's all these little details you need to pay attention to. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. And then you're just like, all right, just breathe.
Yeah, absolutely. Been in the wedding industry and seeing all these different weddings. Is there anything that you're going to take away from those weddings and the things that you've learned within those weddings and like bring them into your day?
I definitely think timing is so important. Allowing extra time for like photos. Obviously, as a photographer, I feel like in some recent weddings that I've done, like you run into these problems that like the other day, like when I had that wedding and you were second shooting, like it started raining. So it was like, okay, plan B, you know, just kind of like, I think, timeline is going to be a huge thing for me. And just making sure like, okay, now if this happens, we have this, so we don't have to be so stressed throughout the day. I think obviously, I might do photos even before the ceremony just so that I'm relaxed after. But we're doing something like in Italy, just us two, next year in June. So it's going to be nice to kind of have that like kind of like an engagement session almost. But I think wedding day, I know that kind of just going with the flow, honestly. I think that's a big thing. I think also having like a wedding planner that won't like that'll be there for you too is so important. And like making sure you're not stressed. So, and I haven't even found anyone yet, but I think like when I do look for someone, like that's the first thing I'm gonna like kind of gauge out, is that like, you know, to make sure that they will kind of like make sure things are going smoothly and like making me not too anxious or stressed. I think that's a big thing.
With shifting to Italy, and like, what's your mindset, or what do you feel really, honestly, like a candid emotions right now? Like, what do you feel like, okay, I'm splitting my time between Italy and here in the States. Like, what's your process of thinking when it comes now to moving and having your business, and what does it look like?
It's definitely like challenging. I think like before, well, because I went to Italy for 3 months over the summer and it was life changing. Like I just love it out there. I think like with my business, and honestly, I don't think I stress it that much. Maybe I do. Maybe I do and don't know it. But I honestly just know that like with my photography, I know I can take it wherever I want. It's kind of like remote almost. I do love that I have like an established clientele here, and that gives me security. But it's definitely been hard. Like the transition to like eventually, like next year is just I'm gonna be there longer than 3 months. So it's like, how is that gonna look like? And I think for me, there's a little of like nervousness there, because I'm like, I always get worried. I'm like, am I gonna have clientele in Italy? Is this something that's doable? You know. So I think just like, you know, next year I have like I think like 4 or 5 weddings in the beginning of next year, before like obviously off season like summer in Florida. It gets hot. But I'm thankful to, still have clients out here in Florida that, will reach out to me like, hey, I know you're like traveling. When will you be in Florida? So having that is nice. And then also like Italy, there's it's just a new environment. It's
Yeah.
it's challenging to move to a new place, let alone like a whole other country,
Yeah.
It's not like I'm just going to like Georgia. Um but yeah, there's definitely been I guess I haven't run into any challenges yet.
I think
But
what for me, like my mind goes to if I was going to be like moving to a whole nother country. One,
yeah.
your tax account is going to have fun, figuring that out. But two is it's like how do you like it's rebranding yourself in a way. Like you sure you
Mhm.
are established here, but like when you go into a different environment, to a whole nother country, whole different language, whole different culture. But it also gives you an advantage, right? Because you can either market to locals there, that's one. But two, you can also just keep marketing to foreigners who are getting married there and be that asset for them. Really an expert in a way, like a guide once you get familiar with the location, with the culture, with the language. I know when I went to Italy last year for the wedding in the Amalfi, the event planners, they were all foreigners. They weren't from Italy, but they have already lived there for like 20 plus years, so pretty much they became they're a
Yeah.
citizen,
Mhm.
and really understand the culture, but also understands the dynamic of what the American culture is when they're traveling, how they like, get things done, where like, hey, where are the best spots we can go to, but they and also understood like how to manage with people and speak with people. And so I think it gives you a really interesting advantage. And I would say, sure, it comes with some disadvantages in the beginning, learning everything,
Mhm.
but I think that exposure will allow you to expand in that area and really create, make yourself unique and set apart in that sense. Because
Mhm.
now you got two diverse groups you get to serve.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, I completely agree. I was thankful enough to actually like do a few shoots in Italy when I was there with people who like tourists, and it was a good time for me to be there because obviously I did want to transition. Like I know I'm gonna make that transition. I knew how hard it was gonna be, so I had that mindset of like like whatever happens happens, and like I went there, and a lot of the clients I did have were traveling from the US. Like,
Yeah.
so it was like good to, and like you said, like you could kind of like serve as like a guide, like, and someone who speaks English and not like, me having like, Italy clients and having that language barrier.
Yeah.
It's nice to like, have someone as a photographer, who kind of does travel for photography or is in like a specific country for X amount of time
Yeah.
that you're comfortable with, that like knows the area and they speak like English. So I think hopefully with time, like that gets easier and like maybe I'll cater maybe to more foreigners. Got to learn some Italian. But yeah, no. Yeah, I've been pretty grateful to have like, clients who are like traveling to Italy, and I'm able to take their photos.
Absolutely. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you're like really, really excited about when like on the move to Italy? Like something that stands out in particular? Is it just like the new scenery
Oh
environment?
yeah.
Like what?
Well, obviously Florida and Italy are two different places. Like, I'm so excited. I'm like,
I want Italy a little
Italy,
bit more.
Florida.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many things. Like, and I'm so excited for Ashley to come. I'm hosting a
Yay.
retreat there next year in like Florence,
Uh-huh.
Tuscany area. And I didn't want to host it until I was familiar with the area. So spending a lot of time in that place and just being like, okay, I like want to like bring my friends here and like let's just shoot like just amazing content out in like Italy, and hopefully it's like a an opportunity for them to get clients like in Europe too. So I'm very excited for that. I'm just also excited to be with my fiance. Like it's just like hard long distance, honestly. We've done it for like it's almost coming 4 years. We've done it for a long time. So just I think that just being with him, and um I just love Italy. Like I love the walking culture there. Like I feel like the US is so like roads everywhere. Let's like, build more roads. But like in Italy, like they preserve their history and their buildings there. And I think it's just like, that's why people travel there. Like
Yeah.
it's like no
It's the
other.
old world and we're the
It
new world. So we
Yeah.
gotta
I
build
know,
everything.
I know. They have buildings there that were like built like years and years ago. And I think just like it's so eye opening to be in a different country. And like I love to be in a position where I'm like culture shock. Like that's like a big thing for me. Like, obviously, like you're here in Florida, you're familiar with it, blah blah blah. But you go to travel, and it's just like, wow, there's so much more out there that I haven't seen, and that's why I love Italy so much, because I feel like I'm on my phone less, and I'm just like, wow, this is like what's around me. I just feel like a different person there.
Yeah. It's
Honestly.
a very distinctive culture because like
Yeah.
when I went, it reminded me of like my family's from Honduras. And so, but I've actually lived in Honduras. I moved there when I was in 6th grade.
Mhm.
Because I'm from Tampa. I'm born in Tampa, but I moved to Honduras 6th grade, and I'm like, man. So I went to Italy. It really reminded me. It's a slower pace of life, and
Mhm.
everything just felt way more relaxed and chill. Everyone wants to sit down, have a cup of coffee, or just like take it all in and enjoy the scenery, enjoy the beauty, the history, and really, it's much more of like being present in the moment than it is about. I mean, our culture here is very much like work, 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 produce,
Yeah.
produce, produce.
Yeah,
Like, what can
say
we
that all the time.
maximize what we're doing our time, right?
Yeah.
Compared to other parts of the country, that's very, other parts of the world, that's very different. And with Italy, it was just beautiful. Like I went to the Amalfi, and them stairs ain't no joke though. And that's the
Oh
one
my
thing.
God. How was that for you? I
It,
was dying.
yeah, me too. Yeah, I got video. I got proof of me dying. It was no good. It's
Guys,
like,
I feel left out in this conversation. Someone
don't
bring
worry.
me to
You're
Italy.
gonna
you
join.
get,
Me
you
to
get to do it
Italy.
soon.
You're gonna join. Them stairs in the Amalfi is no joke. And like, I was there for 8 days, but like the the 3 days we were shooting, like we had our gear and all our stuff, and we decided to go down to like Minori because we were in Ravello. And so we went down. It was like 2,000 feet down in elevation, but we didn't think about coming back up. And taking a taxi was just way too expensive. So-
Honestly, I agree. I went to Amalfi twice when I was there, and the first time it wasn't like too bad because we weren't like we stayed somewhere further from Amalfi, so we were kind of like out in the boonies almost. The second time, oh my gosh, we were in Amalfi,
yeah,
and it was like the roads are tight,
very much.
to get to like dinner, you have to walk, which is nice in the beginning. You're walking
Yep.
downstairs, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to walk back up. And it was like when I was there, it was like July, August. It's hot. Like I don't think there's a difference in temperature like here versus Italy in the summer. It's the same.
Yeah,
It's like
Oh.
humid, like no joke. It's
yeah, it
very
really
hot.
isn't. And like, you just got better scenery. It just looks beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Your eyes is
is.
rewarded, right?
Ew.
Like you're like,
Yeah,
"Man,
you're
this is
humbled. You're
stunning."
walking stairs every part of the day, and we get
Very
to drive
much.
here. Like
We're upstairs at the Juliana bridal suite, and I was struggling taking
I just
these
drove
stairs.
and walked up 10
So
steps.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
it-
bet. I bet it's crazy.
This is
Yeah.
why I hit the stair steppers at least twice a week. Every time at the gym, because in case I get called to
Yeah.
Italy, I'm going and I'll
Yeah.
be ready.
Said I'm going immediately.
So-
you hired me or not? I get the inquiry. I'll be there.
I'll be
showing
there.
Up.
I'll be ready for any parts, right? You need to take me to Asia or any area besides the U.S. I'm good to go.
What was your favorite place that you've ever traveled?
Oh gosh, Japan, 100%.
Really?
I love Japan. I do love Europe too. I think it's really nice how everything is so close in Europe. Like I went to Switzerland, and it was like an hour and a half flight for like
Yeah.
$50. It was just so nice. But I think Japan was beautiful. I went there, I think 2 years ago. And it was because Devin was in South Korea, so we wanted to go to Japan for a few weeks. And that's mega culture shock out there, you guys. It's actually crazy. I mean, we would go on the train, right? And everybody is like, okay, it was just, I felt like I was in a simulation. Everybody was on their phone, and everybody had the same colors on. Like, it was crazy. Like, I mean, obviously here, everybody's like, we've got like colorful clothes. People are dressing like different everywhere. But and obviously they dress very conservatively, I can't say that word, but they're all covered, and like they're just like, on the train, and it was just crazy. And then like you go, and we went to Tokyo, and it was gorgeous. Is like everywhere we went, it was beautiful. They don't trash. They take care of their area, like everywhere they go. No trash cans anywhere. Like when you like walk, you can see like if gums like was like on the floor. Yeah, no, you don't see that there. And it was just, they keep it so clean. Japan's just way ahead of its time, to be honest. Like,
it really is in a way. I mean, their culture, since I don't know how long. I mean, how long history's been tracked about them. They're always like very intentional about every little single thing, the details and precision. Like, I'm big into watches, and so like they have like Grand Seiko, and so in the watch community, they're very known for like precision on time, but precision in quality and their polishing, and it applies to everything they do. I know they have a specific mantra, and I forgot what it is, but they're very intentional about every little single thing.
They are. And the people were just so nice there. The food was great, and it was just, I felt like very safe, and it was very homey. I never wanted to leave. It was beautiful. Yeah. I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I love how you guys are bringing in like people everywhere. I look forward to like seeing what you guys post. I'm like, okay, who did they chat with this time? I think literally you're probably my number one podcast right now that I'm listening to. But and even I know Ashley too, and it's just great that you guys like are coming together and just like, building community. So round of applause, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we're really all about. We really just want to sharpen one another, hear from a bunch of different people in our industry, and learn ourselves, have the audience learn. And we always say that, like, even if just one person like changes perspective because of what we're saying, like, we've done our job. So we're super thankful that you came on. We really appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much.
Any last minute, like, any tips that you would give to like a new photography business owner or anything?
This is one that I wanted to give to anyone who's like kind of moving their business too. I honestly think using social media to your advantage, word of mouth is so important too. Like, reach out to people, because you're making the move. Just like make that extra step, like take that extra step and like talk to people and like communicate. I think that like using ads are very helpful. It's how I got like most of my clients. Like, when I went to like Texas, I ended up getting like probably 10 clients out there in the span of 4 days. Like, It was crazy how great social media works. So yeah, if you're moving somewhere, like, don't be afraid. You will be okay. You'll build clientele. Just believe in yourself and you'll get there.
I love that. Dee, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Danielle Adalyn Photo on Instagram, and DanielleAdalynPhotography.com is my website.
Perfect. And Javi, where can they find you?
At sundial.creatives and at sundialcreatives.com.
And you can find me at Ashley Jade Photography LLC on Instagram, TikTok, and on my website. And you can find us at the 2717 podcast on same platforms, Instagram, TikTok, all the things, Spotify, podcast, YouTube, all the things, 27, the numbers, 17 spelled out. You guys already know the sitch. Like, comment, all the things. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Peace.
Bye.